The Stoics had a phrase for the worst day of your life. They called it Amor Fati, love of fate. And by the end of this, you'll see why it isn't passive acceptance at all. It's actually the sharpest weapon you have. Before we go on, if you find this sort of thing worthwhile, do consider subscribing. It genuinely helps. Amor Fati is Latin for love of fate. It's the idea that you don't just accept what happens to you. You actively love it. Every event, the good, the bad, the boring, the humiliating. All of it. Now, when you first hear that, it sounds insane. Love the traffic jam? Love the layoff? Love the diagnosis? Really? Stay with me, because the philosophers who lived by this weren't naive optimists. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire and buried most of his children. Epictetus was born a slave and walked with a permanent limp because his master broke his leg. Nietzsche, who revived the phrase 18 centuries later, was in constant physical pain and watched his own mind slowly unravel. These were not people insulated from suffering. They were people who had suffered enough to notice something the rest of us miss. Fighting reality is a losing game, and there's a better move. Here's the core insight. There's a Buddhist teaching that pairs beautifully with this. The parable of the two arrows. The first arrow is the event itself. You get fired, someone you love dies, your flight is cancelled. That arrow hits and it hurts, you can't stop it. The second arrow is the one you fire at yourself. It's the story you tell about the event. This shouldn't be happening. This isn't fair. Why me? My life is ruined. I can't handle this. That arrow is the suffering on top of the pain. Most of our misery isn't from the first arrow. It's from the 1,000-second arrows we fire at ourselves for hours, days, sometimes years after. Amor Fati is the practice of putting down the bow. And here's the twist, and it goes further than just not firing. It says, what if you welcomed the first arrow? What if you said, this is exactly what I needed? So why would you love something bad? Doesn't that make you a doormat? Think about it mechanically. You have finite energy. Every ounce you spend wishing reality were different is an ounce you're not spending changing what you can or building something new. When your flight gets cancelled, you have two responses. 1. Rage at the desk agent, ruminate, text angry messages, feel your day get worse and worse. 2. Accept it and get to work. Rebook, find a hotel, maybe even notice you now have 4 unexpected hours to read the book you've been putting off. The event was identical. Your suffering was optional. Nietzsche took this further. He wrote, my formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely bear what is necessary, but love it. Why love it? Because your resistance is the actual problem. The moment you stop resisting, your energy comes back. You can see clearly, you can act. There's a related Stoic idea from Marcus Aurelius. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Think about that. What stands in the way becomes the way. Every successful person you can name has a story about the thing that almost killed them, turning into the thing that made them. The rejection that led to the better opportunity, the illness that reshuffled their priorities, the breakup that forced them to grow up. We tell these stories in hindsight and we say it worked out. But Amor Fati asks you to say that in advance, before you know how it ends. In the middle of the mess, that's the hard part. Loving your fate after the happy ending is easy. Loving it while you're still bleeding. That's the practice. And here's the payoff for that open loop I mentioned at the start. This isn't passivity. It's the opposite. It's the fastest way to move. Because you stop wasting time arguing with what already is, and start working with what's actually in front of you. Let's clear up some misunderstandings, because this idea gets twisted a lot. Amor Fati is not fatalism. It doesn't mean everything is predetermined and you should just give up. You still act. You still choose. You still fight for what matters. You just don't waste energy raging at the parts of reality that have already happened and can't be undone. It's not toxic positivity. You don't have to smile through a funeral or pretend cancer is a gift. You're allowed to grieve. You're allowed to feel the first arrow fully. Amor Fati is about what you do after, whether you can eventually turn toward reality instead of away from it. And it's not about liking evil. If someone wrongs you, Amor Fati doesn't mean you love the wrong. It means you accept that it happened, deal with it clearly, and don't let bitterness poison the rest of your life. The practice is subtle. It's not about your face, it's about your inner posture. So how do you actually do this? 3 practical moves. First, when something bad happens, catch yourself before the second arrow. Notice the moment you start telling yourself the story of how unfair it is. Just notice that noticing alone breaks the spell. Second, ask, what does this make possible? Not why me, but what now? The cancelled flight makes an evening of reading possible. The layoff makes a career pivot possible. The heartbreak makes a version of you possible that couldn't exist otherwise. Third, try what the Stoics called the premeditation of evils. Every morning, spend 2 minutes imagining what could go wrong that day. Traffic, rude coworker, bad news. When something actually goes wrong, you're not blindsided. You've already rehearsed accepting it. And weirdly, most days end up much better than the version you rehearsed, which becomes its own quiet gratitude. These aren't magic, they're reps. You're training a muscle, and like any muscle, it starts weak and gets stronger the more you use it. Amor Fati doesn't erase pain. It just refuses to let pain become the story. And here's the strange thing. The people who practice it don't seem resigned. They seem freer, lighter, more alive. So here's my question for you. What's one thing in your life right now that you're still fighting, that you might be ready to love instead? Tell me in the comments. I read them.